She is the first black woman to have the lead role on a network television show in more than 30 years. Now, Kerry Washington goes from playing the fictitious top fixer in the nation's capital to portraying a real-life woman who rocked Washington, D.C. in one of the most contentious Supreme Court nomination battles in American history. Over the next hour, I'll go one-on-one with Kerry Washington about her role as Anita Hill in HBO's new film Confirmation, on what it means to be a black woman leading ABC's hit drama Scandal, to her political activism and desire to keep her family life private. It's a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. Welcome. She is the first black woman to have the lead role on a network television show in more than 30 years. Now, Kerry Washington goes from playing the fictitious top fixer in the nation's capital to portraying a real-life woman who rocked Washington, D.C. in one of the most contentious Supreme Court nomination battles in American history. Over the next hour, I'll go one-on-one with Kerry Washington about her role as Anita Hill in HBO's new film Confirmation, on what it means to be a black woman leading ABC's hit drama Scandal, to her political activism and desire to keep her family life private. It's a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. Welcome to this News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. I'm Roland Martin. She is a bona fide star, a 5-time NAACP Image Award winner, a multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominee, and has starred alongside Forest Whitaker and Jamie Foxx when both won Best Actor Oscars. But it was the breakthrough role of Washington, D.C. political fixer Olivia Pope in the ABC hit drama Scandal that made Kerry Washington a household name and one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Now she stays in the nation's capital for her new role as Anita Hill in the HBO movie Confirmation, which gives us a look at the personal toll the controversial Supreme Court nomination battle of Clarence Thomas had on both him, Hill, as well as America.
Why are you doing this?
Because I believe you.
I had to tell the truth.
Kerry!
Hi.
What's happening?
I'm here. So happy to be here with you.
Always good to see you. So what is the deal with you and politics? So here you are as the fixer, Olivia Pope on Scandal, and now all of a sudden you're in Confirmation, which was there was nothing fictional about that. That was real. It was raw. It was race. It was sex. It was gender.
Power.
It was power. So OPA should have prepared you for this.
Well, one of the reasons I think I was really drawn to the project and drawn to the role is that I have spent 5 years now kind of exploring what it feels like to be a real power player in DC. And when I saw the documentary about Anita Hill, I realized this was a woman at the opposite end of the spectrum. She's a woman in the same environment, in those same towns, some of the same rooms, but who has no access to power, does not have the same kind of authority or power or access in those rooms. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to explore and a challenge for me to wrap my head around.
Why in God's name would you ever speak to a man like that the rest of your life?
That's a very good question. And I am sure that I cannot answer it to your satisfaction.
It was one of those just iconic moments. I mean, I was in college, and I remember first of all, I remember President Bush nominating him in Maine, and then for black folks, you're replacing Thurgood Marshall, this truly legendary figure, and it's sort of, okay, who's this dude? And then the whole idea of, are you qualified? Is he the best person to replace a Thurgood Marshall? And then all of a sudden we go through contentious hearings, and then sex gets dropped in the middle of it.
He discussed some pornographic material.
It was fascinating.
It changed this country. It really changed this country because, it was one of the first times that we engaged in a 24-hour news cycle. If people dropped their lives, they were watching around the clock. It was one of the first times that America saw two well-spoken black people speak on the national stage in that way. And the fact that they were at opposite ends of the argument was really intense. It was the first time that we talked about sexual harassment in a way. I mean, now we use those words with such ease, but back then that was a vague legal term that very few people understood or knew what it meant. And culturally, we were not dealing with sexual harassment. So the country was kind of forced to deal with race and gender and power in a way that we had never done before. And
then, of course, you still have the dynamic of largely white men deciding the fate of a black man.
Well, that's what was so fascinating, is that, the optics, and I think it's dealt with so beautifully in our film.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who, in any way, deign to think for themselves, do for themselves, have different ideas. And it is a message that, unless you kowtow to the old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched.
You see this row of older white men sitting in judgment of these two black people. And I think it's one of the first times that the country realized, oh, our representational body doesn't represent everyone. There's no women up there, there's no people of color up there, there's no young people up there. And the elections in the following year changed. I mean, it was called the Year of the Woman because more women ran for office than ever before, more people of color entered the races, because people realized that if we want our government to know our voices, we have to be in the room. We have to literally be at the table, and we were not at that table.
So during this period, what's going through your mind as you seeing it
back then,
yeah, and then all of a sudden you're now playing Anita Hill, and so you're doing research, but you were still living in that moment?
Yeah, so I was 14 when it happened, so a lot of my memories about it were actually through the perspective of my parents. And in my house, you know, we talked a lot about issues, social issues at the dinner table, but whether it was about education or women's right to choose, affirmative action, housing, we were all generally on the same page. And this was one of the first moments, and my dad doesn't love when I talk about this because, you know, he may not love to admit it now, but he and my mom were at odds because he really felt pulled toward this black man who was watching his career and his reputation be stripped from him on the national stage by a panel of white men, being embarrassed publicly, being demeaned. He felt very upset about that. And my mother was very pulled toward Anita Hill. And so as somebody who was very close to both parents, I felt pulled in both directions.
Like a tennis match, you're like...
A little bit, yeah. And I think it was the first time that I was aware of that idea of intersectionality. You know, this idea that sometimes I will feel a certain way as a woman, as a feminist, sometimes I will feel a certain way as a person of color, and there may be times where those are at odds with each other. You know, it's Sojourner Truth, ain't I a woman? You know, it's like, where do I fit in to this conversation as a woman of color when both of these ideologies are resonating for me, both the racism part and the sexism part?
And what is interesting, as you were talking and as I was thinking about it, even within our history as African Americans, if you use a civil rights movement, you had tremendous sexism in the civil rights movement.
Absolutely.
And many of those women chose not to say anything because they did not want to hurt the movement.
That's right.
So with Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas, it was, sister, what are you doing? This is a black man going for the Supreme Court, second in history.
We don't air our dirty laundry out there publicly like that, even if he's not a black person whose ideology matches a lot of other black people in this country. He's a black man, and we are about to lose the black seat. So that was really complicated. At the same time, when you say that about the civil rights movement, I also think about the women's movement and how in the women's movement there was a lot of racism in the women's movement. In the same way that there was sexism in the civil rights movement.
Just like Michael Sam right now says, there's racism in the LGBT movement.
That's right.
Because you might be gay, but you're still white.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
So all of these dynamics to me are interesting because, again, you bringing that up, during that period, I remember you had white feminists who were very much about Anita Hill, and for a lot of black folks, that was a visceral reaction seeing, again, even though white women were supporting a black woman,
but they were attacking a black man. Yeah, it was very intense. It was very intense, I think, in a lot of households. And that's why it stuck with me, because I realized, I think it was the first time that I started thinking about my identity politics in a nuanced way, where I started thinking, this is more complicated than black and white, man or woman. You know, there are layers within the spectrums of power in this country.
And isn't it interesting that we can talk about that 25 years ago, but then you see black man in the White House, black first lady, and then you begin to think about the pictures saying they're a monkey. You begin to look at the attacks, and you say to yourself, a black man ascended to the Supreme Court, second in history, first black president, but you're still dealing with the reality of 397 years after the first slave touched down in Virginia in 1619, that race is still so visceral, powerful, and just integrated in the soul of America.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why the film is it's really touching a chord with people, because we are, as much as we like to think that we have evolved, and we have, we've made a lot of progress when it comes to race and gender, but we are still dealing with racism in this country the conversation that is happening right now in terms of the people who are running for president is shocking and scary to me, frightening. At the same time, we're also talking about gender equality, because as much as we have struggled as women to be on equal footing, we have the women's soccer team suing to be taken as seriously as the men's, and they're the champions. They're the ones with the medals, right?
You have a guy in Indian Creek in California who says the men have been carrying the WTA, even though Serena, when she plays, is far more popular than Federer.
That's right. That's right. We're still struggling with how to have these conversations and how to, quite honestly, I always think about those first three words of our Constitution, "We the people," and how when they were written, it didn't include a lot of us. That the definition of people.
Jordan said in the Watergate hearings.
That's right. That we the people did not include women. It did not include people of color. It did not include people under the age of 21. So you could go fight in a war at 18, but you couldn't vote for the president. And all of those changes have happened because of progressive movements, because we've showed up and we've shared our voices and we've demanded to be included as we the people. And we have to be vigilant about that. We can't stop that.
When we come back, Kerry talks about her passion for politics and her attraction to activism.
I have been a political person my whole life. I feel like I should never have to not be who I am because of what I do for a living. So I don't speak out because I'm in the public eye. I just don't allow myself to be silenced because I'm in the public eye.
You're watching a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. What is it about politics that has you so, this is my thing?
It's an interesting question. Sometimes I think some of it has to do with the fact that I went to school in D.C. I went to GW, and so that's my town in a way. I think that's why.
George Washington University.
Yes, exactly. But I think I grew up in a household where the political was personal. I think, unfortunately, we sometimes think of politics as this thing that happens on a hill in a city, and those decisions, we don't have a say in those decisions, and those decisions don't impact us. It's like the business of other people. And that's a dangerous way of thinking, because politics is where you live, how you vote, what you eat, how you drive, how you dress. Those decisions are made in politics. And so we have to protect
every facet of your life.
Every facet of your life. So when we don't participate, we put ourselves in danger. We make ourselves vulnerable when we think that politics are not about us.
2008, you were very much in support of what from the beginning was Senator Obama.
Yeah.
You speak at the 2012 Democratic National Convention. Now you're going hard for former Secretary Hillary Clinton. When you hear people say, look, Kerry, go on over there and just do that movie.
Yeah.
Just do that TV show.
Yeah.
We don't need to hear what you think about candidates. We don't need to hear what you think about the arts in school. Just go over here and do your little job.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Well, for me, I was involved with politics before I became an actor. I was doing petitions to save the National Endowment for the Arts when I was in college. I was working to have more inclusivity in schools and the arts since then. I think I went to my first march when I was in high school. So I have been a political person my whole life. I feel like I should never have to not be who I am because of what I do for a living. So I don't speak out because I'm in the public eye. I just don't allow myself to be silenced because I'm in the public eye.
When we think about politics, when we look at Scandal, the show that you're on, obviously it centers around the issue of politics, but you also have to deal with the politics of Hollywood, the politics of who gets what roles. And we've seen Taraji and Viola and you and others make it perfectly clear that, look, we can do job just as well as somebody else. You saw the whole issue with Oscar So White. And what I explain to folks is, look, what is happening in Hollywood is happening in Silicon Valley.
That's right.
is happening in corporate America. It's the story of America. And so even though folks see you, oh my gosh, she's so great and successful, it's not like it's still peaches and cream.
That's right. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why I've gravitated toward producing. You know, I'm one of the executive producers on Confirmation, and I feel like it's dangerous, as with politics, I think in business, it's dangerous to sit around and wait to be invited to the party, that you have to kind of take life by the horns and create opportunities for yourself. So that was part of my feeling like, you know what, I want to make sure that I'm not just helping to tell story, but that I'm actually telling story that matters to me and that I'm passionate about, that I have the opportunity to create opportunities for others. So by me stepping into producing, I was able to create more opportunities for more women, for more people of color. You know, this amazing role for Wendell, this amazing African-American director. Our screenwriter is a woman. A lot of our producers, our DP is a woman. So that for me is to be able to continue to have workplaces of inclusivity where we value all voices at the table and we're telling stories that really matter to everyone. That's important to me.
See, one of the things that I try to do, I try to get people to think, because what happens is they'll think, well, this is this role, or, okay, that's great that Kerry's doing these things, she's getting folks jobs. I'm like, no, y'all don't understand. When you're getting those folks jobs, you're not dealing with higher paid jobs, the next opportunity, income inequality. You're not dealing with wealth creation, the ability to pass your money on to the next generation. I said, so fighting for those things, it goes beyond just that person getting a job. It literally can impact your entire bloodline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the industry as a whole, you know, because I remember the New York Times did a story, to your point, after Oscars So White, that had pictures of all the CEOs, and that was real white too,
right.
You know? So the idea also of saying, if I want to change the shape of what leadership and power looks like, I have to be willing to step into my own power, which is scary, I think, for a lot of people, but necessary.
As my conversation with Kerry Washington continues, she opens up about her controversial photo on the cover of Adweek magazine and why keeping her private life out of the public eye is a top priority.
So then to see that cover and feel like that's not me just didn't feel acceptable.
I'm Roland Martin, and you're watching a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. And so I'm sitting here looking at you, and I'm looking at your face,
yeah.
looking at you smiling, and then I see this daggum Adweek, and I'm like, I got a photo with this woman. That ain't this woman.
Mm-hmm.
Other people would have said, shh, look, you on the cover. Just
right.
Don't say anything.
Right.
But when it comes to definitions of beauty, the standard of beauty in America, and how oftentimes that's not black women, you have to say something to let folks know, you know what, not right.
The great irony is that the article is about my partnership with brands and how I refuse to be just a pretty face. You know, that I really fight to have real relationships with the brands that I work with. And so then to see that cover and feel like that's not me just didn't feel acceptable. The article was so important to me, and I felt like it was a really important conversation to be having about what it means to partner with brands and what it means to kind of own your identity and your authenticity. And so if that's what I'm saying on the inside, I needed to be making sure that I was being consistent with that on the outside.
It's interesting you bring up consistency. Somebody asked me, they also said, Roland, why do you like Kerry so much? I said, one, she crazy. I said, she crazy.
Likes my playlist.
Yes. I said, so when I do my songs for Scandal, she's like, I'm going to retweet that one.
Yes.
But you also gave an interview recently, and I'm telling you, you made it clear, because this bothers me. Because first of all, you notice something. You watch News One Now. If you get married or have a baby, you're not going to hear it on my show. Mm-hmm. Because my deal is, that's your business. So you gave an interview and you were like, that's my business. Mm-hmm. Somebody did a story, they said, Kerry Washington secretly got married. And I tweeted.
I remember this.
I was like, that wasn't no secret.
There were a lot of people there. It wasn't a secret to them.
I said,
yeah.
How is that a secret? And so I appreciate you saying, yo, this is my business.
Yeah.
I don't need to let y'all know what's happening with my marriage, with my kid, whatever. That's personal. Because I always said Meryl Streep. You've never seen a photo shoot of Meryl Streep and her husband and her kids. It's just her and the work.
Yeah, I felt like that's a big part of it for me. I really love to be able to disappear into my characters. And really up until Scandal, I was able to do that. I mean, I was able to, people never really connected that the girl from Save the Last Dance was the same girl from Ray, was the same girl from Last King of Scotland, because each of those characters was so different. Scandal kind of changed the game for me in terms of,
a little bit.
in terms of being recognized.
Just a little bit.
Losing my anonymity, just a little, the grocery store runs slowed down a little bit. But I felt like I still wanted to hold on to my personal life so that when I tell a story, you're not thinking about Kerry and Nnamdi, you're thinking about that person on the screen. You're not thinking about my stuff or whatever. You're thinking about that character, because I think sometimes those stories can be distracting. So that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is, you know, I'm realizing also that some of it is about, you know, it's not just my business to share. You know, like when it comes to my kids, like for me, I respect and admire how other people do it, and sometimes I'm even a little jealous, you know. When I have really cute pictures of my kid, I'm like, I want to send this to the world. I'll just send it to my mother instead. But I feel like those are her decisions to make. You know, the people that I'm in relationship with, we would have to make those decisions together, because it's not just my life, you know, it's somebody else's life too.
The reason why I think it's important, we were at the Uni Journalists of Color Convention, I think it was in 1999 in Seattle, so I'm attending this panel, and Halle Berry was on the panel. And she was lamenting being on junkets and being asked about divorce from David Justice and her previous relationships. And so I'm sitting in the room, and I'm in the back, and I go, stop talking about it. And I literally, and we've gotten to know each other over the years since then, and I literally want to say, if you don't talk about it, when someone comes at you, you say,
I don't talk about it.
I don't talk about it.
Yeah, well, that part of it too is like, for me, it's just my personal choice, and it's, you know, it works for me. But I think everybody has to figure out how to do what feels right for them, you know. And I'm not judgmental about it, because I've done it a lot of different ways. This is how I have figured out through trial and error what works for me.
When you got your NAACP Image Award, they used the clip from our previous interview talking about your passion for the arts. As somebody who was in the band in elementary school, junior high, and high school, every time I have artists on the show, they are lamenting the fact that they believe that kids today are not as creative because that side of them is not being cultivated. And many are concerned about the future of our musicians, of our debaters, our artists and actors, that if that's not cultivated, honed, and given in a wider public school setting, that we may end up with an elitist art community in the next generation.
I think that's very poignant. It's funny because when I talk about it, I don't talk about it as much as where will our next generation of artists come from, because I think we are fundamentally such creative people. I mean, we're the only people who can create a music form out of a record player. You know what I mean? We turned a record player into an instrument. If you don't give us instruments, we make instruments from what we have.
Just in case y'all didn't know, she also directed a video.
I did, for Common.
Yes, I didn't forget.
But my concern is really that the United States has always thrived on a creative economy, and our best leaders, our best CEOs, our best scientists, our best thinkers are people who are able to use their creative brain. If we don't have creativity in our schools, if we don't engage kids in the arts, we're going to lose our creative economy. We're going to lose our ability to build leaders in this nation. And so, you know, arts and creativity is our biggest export, but also our leaders, our CEOs, those are people who think outside the box. They're creative thinkers. If kids don't know how to do that, we're going to suffer in the national economy, in our ability to compete globally. We're not a manufacturer society. We are a leadership society. I also think too often we think about the arts as kind of the sprinkles on the ice cream cone. We think about it as the extra, but the truth is—
versus a core.
All of the issues that we're facing in education, it has been proven, partly through this study I've done with the President's Committee for the Arts and Humanities. We've done a national study on the state of arts education. And when you look at schools, you fix problems with the arts. When you have issues with kids coming to school, staying in school, doing well in math, doing well in reading, schools that use integrative arts solve those problems. There's more parental involvement, kids show up, retention is higher, lower behavioral issues. I mean, it transforms a school to have arts education. So this isn't about sprinkles on a cupcake. This is about how we turn around our most challenged schools. It's through inspiring kids and keeping them engaged and teaching them how to be leaders.
Coming up, Kerry shares her love for Shonda Rhimes, Jamie Foxx, and other heavy hitters in Hollywood, as well as the Obamas. Your Django and Ray co-star, Jamie Foxx.
My movie husband. I just think love, love, love. I love that man so much.
You're watching a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. So I'm going to throw out a series of names.
Okay.
And I want you to respond.
Uh-oh. This is nerve-wracking.
First.
Okay.
Shonda Rhimes.
Dream job, dream boss. She's the best. She, I mean, through the years, she has become a friend. She's a mentor. She has, I feel like every day I learn from her, from how she wields her power, how she lives her life. She's just an extraordinary example and a role model.
Michelle Obama.
The real deal. She is just the real deal. I'm getting
very regular.
Yeah, she's just true. She's good people and she's true. She has been such a friend through the years, and I'm very grateful for our relationship with both of them, and I really admire her and respect her and adore her, and I'm excited to see what's next for both of them.
President Obama.
Just the truth. He's the truth. I'm so grateful that he exists. I'm grateful that he came along in the world to be our first African-American president, and to do it with such dignity and grace and intelligence. And his legacy is one that we will cherish for decades.
Harry Belafonte.
Oh, everything. Everything. I mean, his legacy, I will never forget that NAACP Awards where he and Sidney Poitier came out on stage together, and you just think, none of us would be here were it not for them. None of us. And he continues to be such a progressive voice and a voice for change and a warrior. So he's a hero for sure.
Ava DuVernay.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just think of like brilliant joy. She is such a brilliant filmmaker, but she also, like, she lives her life with joy. She only works with people she wants to work with. She does what she wants to do. She follows her soul. Her integrity is impeccable. She's a real sister.
Chris Rock.
Crazy. Gosh, Chris has been so supportive of me through my career. I thought he did a great job at the Oscars this year.
Made folks in the room a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is not bad. Which is not bad.
Yeah, I saw you stand up. Go, Chris, go.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think, when I think of Chris, I think ever evolving.
Your Django and Ray co-star, Jamie Foxx.
My movie husband. I just think love, love, love. I love that man so much. We have to find our third project. It feels like, you know, greatness comes in threes, so we have to find what's next.
Craig Robinson.
Oh, I love Craig. Craig is so much fun, so talented. One of the biggest hearts, you know, he has one of the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever worked with. He's so generous.
Joe Morton.
Oh, Papa. Joe Morton was the first guest star we had on Scandal that I literally left the table and called home and was like, guess who's on the show? Because I grew up admiring his work. I mean, he's brother from another planet. He's everything.
Right.
And I didn't know that he was going to be my dad on the show.
Really?
But I did not know until I turned the page of that final episode and saw that Olivia Pope says dad. Not until that moment did I know that he was my father.
So your reaction was the same one we had when we saw it. We were like,
what? Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Well, we saw the Image Awards, we saw each other at the Image Awards, I told him, I said, dude, your lines, your segments, your speeches, he was off several episodes, and I said, I literally had my phone, I'm getting ready to go to the show, I'm shaving everything, and I'm playing it, just him going off, boy, you know, hell high water.
Yes.
And everything, I'll just,
magic.
man, just play him, because he's killing it.
It's magic. I mean, he gets that what Shonda's doing with language, she is a modern Shakespeare. And in the way that David Mamet kind of wrote in the rhythm of the American man, she writes in the rhythm of the modern woman. And it's just brilliant. And so he takes her words and makes it Shakespeare, or understands that it's Shakespeare.
You've played dirty before, poisoned a few arrows. Of course you have. But that was always at the expense of someone you loathed. You were Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. This would be different. This would be hurting someone you respect, someone who is innocent, someone who has never done anything to harm you. You'd no longer be Robin Hood, Olivia. You'd be you.
What do you make of this shift, I believe, back to the original Olivia Pope?
Yeah, it's wild.
No, well, you see the tweets. I'm like, that's what I'm saying right there.
It's interesting. I love how passionate our fans are, you know, because some people are so excited about it and some people are devastated. And I just love that. I love that people are so invested that they have feelings about it at all. So I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all the judgment. My job is to hold a very non-judgmental space about her and just try to be as honest as I can in her journey. But I love that people are so, you know, they really have big opinions about whether she has the white hat or not, or is she a good person anymore? Is this the right kind of way to be? Is she going downhill? It's great.
So what does Kerry Washington do for fun?
What does Kerry Washington do
besides
for fun?
Read political magazines and do political commercials?
Watch TV One.
Yes.
I mean, to be honest, it's really spending time with my family, spending time with my friends and family. I love to travel, but I really just love to hang out with the people that I love, watch movies, watch TV, eat good food, just really enjoy life with the people that I love and the people that really know me, you know, that aren't expecting red carpet Kerry, but just kind of Kerry from the block.
Jesus, Mary, Cleopatra. When we come back, Kerry Washington will reveal what they all have in common. Folks, you're watching a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. Who do you want to meet you've never met?
Oh, you know, I'm not even Catholic, but I would really love to meet Pope Francis. I think he's an extraordinary leader, and I'm really struck by his humility and how much courage he has in changing the way religion looks right now in the world. And who else would I like to meet?
Okay, so that's all right. So if Kerry Washington is having a dinner party.
I hate these questions so much because I want to have 20 different dinner parties.
So, but let's say you got dinner party, it's you, husband, 8 people.
8 people.
8 people, that's it. Small, intimate dinner party, great food, gumbo.
Living? 8 living people?
Don't have to be living.
They don't have to be
No.
living. Oh my goodness. Well, then you want Jesus there. I mean, you got to have a lot of questions for
Black
Jesus.
folks will always make sure Jesus is first.
Because don't you want to know? Like, I want to know. I got questions. Was it uncomfortable on the donkey? Like, talk to me. So that would be one. Gosh, in a way, I'm not going to be any more religious after this, but in a way, Mary, because I think, like, wow, what a brave woman to be experiencing that.
Mary, how do you feel when you had a buck?
Well, like, you know, what was it like to have this extraordinary truth and know that no one was going to believe you and that everybody was going to judge you and think you were a whore, you know, for carrying a miracle?
So we got Jesus and Mary.
Yeah, okay.
Jesus and his
Then,
mama.
yeah.
It's all black. It's y'all, a
It's
black
bring
person always got to bring their mama.
your mama to
I got to bring their
dinner
mama. Because
day.
I know Jesus was black, but Jesus and his mama. Jesus,
Okay.
bring your mama.
The Obamas, that would be great.
Okay, so that's 4.
Okay, then let's see. I would love James Baldwin and Lorraine Hansberry.
6.
I get 2 more. I'm gonna say I just kind of want to know Cleopatra's deal. I mean, she was sort of the first diva titan, right? So I want to
7.
know what's going on there. And then my own grandmother, who I wish I knew more.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 8.
Yeah.
That's a good party.
Yeah.
Up next, Kerry discusses how she's stepping into opportunities behind the camera. We also clear up any confusion about our friendship. She told you she loved you. You ain't telling you love her back?
Well, I know. It's because Roland knows I know. He's not insecure. We got a thing.
I'm Roland Martin, and you're watching a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. So, what is next? I mean, look, 5 years of scandal. We don't know how it ends or when it ends. But what else do you want to do?
Well, I really have been bitten by the producing bug. I've really loved producing Confirmation. I also loved acting in it, so I don't think I'm completely done with acting, although I think about quitting at least once a year. But I don't think I'm completely done. But I really love producing. I love being a problem solver. I love giving other people opportunities to shine. I love kind of stepping up and having a bigger voice in the creative industry. So I think producing is something that I will continue to try to do.
Who did you learn from? When Nate Parker did Birth of a Nation, first time he directed.
Yeah.
And people were going, dude, where you learn this stuff from? So when you are, whether it's Confirmation, whether it was Scandal, I mean, are you constantly in an education mode? Are you
constantly absorbing? I mean, people would ask me all the time in the first couple of years of Scandal, like, you're such a leader on set. How do you know how to be number one on the call sheet so well? And I would say, because I've worked with the best number ones in the business. I mean, when you do a movie where Forrest Whitaker is the number one and Jamie Foxx is the number one and Chris Rock is the number one, they teach you how to be a generous leader. You know, I've had great teachers in my career, so I try to always stay in a learning mode.
And when you are in that space, when you talk about producing, what types of stories are you thinking about? I mean, what as you're sitting there thinking in your creative space, what is going through your mind when you say, oh, that could be interesting, or that could be interesting?
Honestly, part of it is just, you know, kind of going with my gut, not to sound Olivia Pope, but going with my heart, you know, what speaks to me, because I think I'm drawn to a lot of different kinds of stories. But I have noticed in the projects that I have so far that I'm definitely drawn to projects that are about people that society likes to ignore. You know, that I tend to be attracted to stories that are about our forgotten citizens, whether it's because of their economics, because of their sexual orientation, because of their age, because of their gender, because of their beliefs. Whatever it is, I'm drawn to kind of giving a voice to the voiceless in some way.
Now, I'm going to end with this, because I have to tell you this for our audience. I've run 3 black newspapers. I've run a black website.
Just do this.
I've news editor of Black Magazine, news director of the Black radio station.
Amazing.
Produced for Black Cable Network.
Keep on.
Now with this Black Cable Network.
Preach.
I've been in black media more than anybody else. And I have interviewed a lot of people, political, entertainment. And I've told many people this, what I appreciate is your deal has been, I am talking to Roland. I'm doing this media. 2012, we were back and forth trying to get you on, talk about Scandal. I had Judy on, I had Columbus on. I always and I remember we were standing. I was doing a live shot, and you about to do a live hit, and we didn't realize that we were standing next to each other. And so we hug, and you turn to the ABC person, you are getting me on TV One.
Yeah.
And you make that point that's important. And I tell black folks in Hollywood all the time, we're always here.
Your community.
Don't forget us.
Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget your community. Why would you want to? It's who you are. You know, you can do everything, but don't let go of yourself to do everything. Do everything as yourself, with your community. Otherwise, you'll be lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
I love you.
Appreciate it. I love you as well. No, let me say that, y'all. I love her as well, because you know when you did the Image Award, black folks got really upset.
With what?
Remember when you messed with my Feather Pocket Square?
Yeah.
And so you said at the end, you said, Roland, I love you. And then we went, Roland, you didn't tell Kerry you love her back. I said, y'all, we literally had 3 seconds and they were cut. No, black folks were all on Facebook and Twitter. She told you she loved you. You ain't telling you love her back?
Well, I know. It's because Roland knows I know. He's not insecure. We got a thing.
Right.
He's secure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But they were like really tripping.
Well, listen up. He said it.
Yes. I love Kerry.
There's a lot of love in this room.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't be jelly.
All right, don't hate. Congratulate. I'm going to let you celebrate. Appreciate it.
Thanks you.
So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kerry Washington. And like I said in the interview, of course I love me some Kerry. She's always a great person to talk with, chat with, and she's a phenomenal talent. Of course, you can always catch me, Gladiators, as she said, I'm the chief gladiator. Live tweeting Scandal every Thursday night. And of course, I want you watching News One Now every morning at 7 a.m. Eastern right here on TV One. For all of the staff here at News One Now, we thank you for watching this News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed. Be sure to have a great night. She is the first black woman to have the lead role on a network television show in more than 30 years. Now, Kerry Washington goes from playing the fictitious top fixer in the nation's capital to portraying a real-life woman who rocked Washington, D.C. in one of the most contentious Supreme Court nomination battles in American history. Over the next hour, I'll go one-on-one with Kerry Washington about her role as Anita Hill in HBO's new film Confirmation, on what it means to be a black woman leading ABC's hit drama Scandal, to her political activism and desire to keep her family life private. It's a News One Now Primetime Special, Kerry Washington Revealed.